Metal Lords. Now, this was a film that I did not expect myself to actually end up watching, but hey, no regrets, because damn, it was a pretty good film, I have to say. I mean, 6.7 in IMDb. I have no real comments to that. I think it's a fair rating on IMDb's part. But as for the film itself, it actually touched upon a lot of gray area and niche in terms of how the transition from sort of a coming of age story where a lot of children go through transitions by leaning towards a specific music or talent or nature or selection of hobby that they try to use to define themselves, to identify themselves, or something that they can use to copy and grow up through in order to find some sort of an identity. Because as we all know, coming of age is all about you trying to find your place in this world. Where do you belong? What's your purpose? What's the meaning of your version of this life? And so we do end up leaning into specific types of characteristics. Some people join sports, some people just study really hard, some people end up going after a metal band, and we have all sorts of in-betweeners who try to balance things out and don't really fit in, misfits and what's not. And I believe I fell in the misfits category because I did like a bunch of things, and so I could never really fit into a specific group. Like, and I wasn't really good at anything in particular either. So yeah, I think that really leaned into it. Like, I did a lot of different sports, but I wasn't specifically good at any. So the guys who were actually good at sports would not include me, but I would fit into the guys who just played it for for casual fun sake. And yeah, the same thing went for those who enjoyed specific themes such as metal bands. And I never really was someone that liked metal specifically, but I was into rock. And I did learn to appreciate metal, as what it was, but I wouldn't spend my time listening to what Metallica or anything like that in particular. But I did, yes, listen to some songs, of course. So this film, first of all, is a true coming of age film. It really nails down Adrian Greensmith. What was his character's name? He really nails. Yeah, he was Hunter. He really nails this character, Hunter. So basically, Hunter and Kevin are these two friends, in high school, and they are they are working on a metal band, which I believe they call Skull. This is not a review for children. I'm sure you guys should not be here, so I'm gonna just use a little bit of profanity here and there because it's for the sake of the film. So the name of their band is Skullfuckers, and it ends up getting changed to Skull Flowers in the end because the school doesn't allow them to use any foul words and what's not in the naming. But it's hilarious because that's what it is throughout the film, and it's so classic and typical as to the fact that that's what it would be in real life if it was a metal band. And so we went with this whole Skullfuckers theme from the start. And Hunter and Kevin are the ones who are trying to set it up. Hunter is really the hardcore metal geek here, and he sort of drills this into Kevin and finds Kevin as sort of the support that he was lacking, the friend that he never really had, and leaned into him really heavy by dumping all of his metal knowledge into Kevin and using Kevin as sort of a reflection of himself and a form of moral support. Because I think you can sort of see that if like in Hunter's perspective, he looks at Kevin as his creation. Like he's if he is able to convert Kevin into a member of his metal band, then Hunter believes that he may have achieved at least something in life. But even that falls apart when Kevin, meets Emily, a girl who comes into the picture, and Hunter is straight up against her in a form of a sexist manner, where he believes that a girl could never be part of a metal band. And so, we see how someone who's already sort of segregated because of their nature of liking metal bands, looking like a person who is not your typical Chad alpha male sort of, in nature in any way. He gets bullied, he gets pushed around a lot. He's really geeky about his metal band. He's a really soft sort of male character, and all of a sudden he's actually showing prejudice against Emily and segregating Emily from joining their metal band because he believes the girl shouldn't be there. So Kevin is like, why not? Why can't a girl be in the band? I mean, it's not like the band is already pretty messed up as is. In metal, it's all about accepting differences and going crazy as a result. You're just embracing, your nature, your differences, and it should be really about that. And Hunter really starts to question himself and his true motives. We do get a lot of comical scenes. There's a lot of hilarious moments in this. There's also a lot of there's actually, I think, two sort of nude scenes, but it's not really hardcore nudity because they are trying to what do you call this, portray high school kids. So a lot of the nudity are like butt shots and whatever. And there's also a lot of profanity throughout. That one's completely unfiltered, but I believe there's no high school where kids don't speak profanity, so it's completely understood. Other than that, it really focuses on the core story, which is coming of age, where we do have Kevin and Emily, making out, and definitely having sex in this particular van that Emily brought. And we don't get to see a scene of that, thank God, but still, it is well indicated that they did have sex and they really fell in love with each other. Your classic high school romance, and Hunter gets segregated as a result of this romance because it reveals that he is even further of a misfit. He doesn't really accept this girl coming and stealing away his best buddy, and not only his buddy, but also his creation, his manifestation of his achievement as a metal geek. Because he knows so much about metal, obviously he has to plant this into someone, and Kevin was that subject for him, and now he's losing Kevin. So he works to fight to get Kevin back. He even ends up in real fights and actually ends up getting admitted into what is some sort of a what do you call it? It's like a school for kids, but like really troubled kids. I forgot the name for it. It's like a detention center, massive one, basically. It's not a juvenile. I think it's a juvenile detention, but it's specifically for people with mental disabilities. Where Joe Manganiello is actually the psychiatrist in charge, which was hilarious because he didn't have much of a role. He came in for like a 5 to 10 minute, like actually decent 5 to 10 minute scenes, here and there. I think if just his scenes alone would have probably stuck up to within 5 minutes, but he did get peppered throughout a 10-minute scene. And he turns out that he was a metal fan, and as a result, he helps Hunter to escape from the whatever juvenile detention facility it's supposed to be. The guy behind Hunter here is actually his father, who, as every other I don't mean to offend anyone, but as any other American parent, as I often see in films, don't really have any control over their kids. It's not really the case here in Asia, trust me. Parents here do control their kids, and sometimes too much, to the point where the kids completely lose control when they do escape their parents' grips and grasp and go into college and get into all kinds of nonsense. So yeah, I guess to some extent American parents had the idea, but poor execution. So yeah, but anyway, regardless, when it comes to you know, the finale or sort of the main climax, they do finally accept the girl into their band. And they all really rock it out together. They have so much fun. There's even a little car chase throughout, certain moments where they try to basically escape from these bunch of bullies who come in a Ford. I mean, of course, the bully is in a Ford. Haven't you guys driven? It's always a Ford that comes after you. But thankfully, I do have a car now that can outrun these Fords. But yeah, I used to have a little car that always gets bullied. But yeah, anyway, it's still a little car, but it doesn't get bullied as much. So yeah, it's a decent film. I think it really had a lot more potential. In fact, it it really leaned on this very basic cast, but I do believe the cast actually did a good job. I think they did their very best because, quite frankly, as I see these people, I think in another 10 years these people would definitely define their own standards of acting, because Adrian Greensmith as Hunter was so believable that you can really feel for him, feel sorry for him, and you get that sort of smuck look that he sort of has on his face at all times, and you can really understand it. You feel for it, even those micro expressions that he gives out. Jaden Martell, they've already seen him in It, I believe. And yeah, he has a good, decent acting history. I never really seen Isis Hainsworth before, but it seems like she has a lot of potential. She acts as a person who also has certain a specific disability, which is where they get ticked off, they get irritated by people who talk about them or say specific words or make scratching noises. I can't really remember what exactly it's called, but yeah, she has a certain disability, so she loses it at times and goes completely nuts when she gets irritated to a specific point. You know what? I apologize. Let me just look up the disability and get back to you. Hold on a sec. So I'm actually looking through Wikipedia, and I did just Google it in general. I can't really find what her specific mental illness was. But yes, I actually do remember now that she's a cello player or cello player. I think it's a cello. And yeah, so they actually bring the cello into the metal band, and finally she does play some sort of an electric cello towards the end, and it sounded awesome. Quite frankly, the song in the end really sounded awesome. There we go, an electric cello. Yeah, she does do that. So and they had to change the name to Skullflower. Yeah, they do end up doing that. So anyway, I really can't seem to find what her her disability or mental illness really is. But I don't think we can view it too much as a disability. It's more so, yes, a mental illness. Um, you know, um, but yeah, she has these meltdowns, these episodes of meltdowns that can really get out of hand, and that's basically what Icy Sainsworth is trying to portray here, and it's done really well. And I have not seen an interview of her yet, but I would be impressed if she looks completely different out of the character. It might be really, really amazing to see how different she actually is. And so would Adrian Greensmith, because of the way he portrays himself on screen. I'm sure off screen he's a completely different character, which would be really impressive as well. So I have to say that the cast is really talented, but the story is mainly focused on Kevin and Hunter, who are these two buddies who have to go through this really harsh growing up, and accepting themselves as these two metal geeks of sort. And yeah, it's pretty impressive, I have to say. So let me pull up my rating. I'm actually surprised how close IMDb is to the rating that I'm going to give here, which is a 6 out of 10. This is a really good film. I really enjoyed it, and I think it addresses a lot of interesting topics. And also is very true, very raw, very honest to the nature of growing up. I could really see people going through this, as I have seen in the past. And although I was never really into metal, I did have friends who were into metal, and I could see this sort of reflecting very realistically what people go through around you. And I too have gone through my own phase, although not with metal, but I was into a lot of video games and comic books and those sorts of things. And you somehow end up going through some form of a segregation. Although I didn't really get affected too badly, because I guess I did sort of have some physical talent. I was into some sports and those sorts of things, so I didn't get too cornered out or zoned out. But the bullying is always there. It's always a part of everyone's childhood. I don't think there's really any way to escape it, because we always have bad people, bad parents, and as a result, bad children. And the cycle continues. But I guess what's really important is that be it you or your child, they learn to accept themselves for who they really are and prosper, and just try to survive, a day to day against all these crazy people who may come after them, just because they don't understand fully what it means to be an individual. And so they try to make fun of others and get some sort of credit for themselves by thinking that they are better than other people. And that's what bullying is really all about. But in reality, people who can find credits in themselves for being who they are, I think is truly more impressive, because once you grew up, you realize you can't just go and bully people, because they'll probably beat the crap out of you, or yeah, you'll actually end up in a lawsuit or something like that. So Metal Lords, I really liked it. I think it's very deserving of its rating. It's definitely a lot better than all the recent films that I watched. Perhaps not the outfit. I think the outfit stands out as probably the best film I've watched so far this year. But among all the other comic book films that may have come out, I think it's mainly Moon Knight and Doctor Strange and what else? I don't think there's many others yet. But oh yeah, Spider Man. I think yeah, among all of these, Metal Lords is definitely a better film for me, at least for me. I think just by looking at it as a film, the items it tries to address, the characters and the development of these characters, and as you can see, once again, it's a 20K rating. 20K is rated by 20K people. It's completely different as opposed to a film that's watched by hundreds and hundreds of people, where it's just too mainstream and people watch it for the sake of just trying to follow the mass majority. There we go, 156,000 people, 7.4. Whereas this is just like, yeah, almost 10% of that. But you have a very niche group of people who watch it. I highly recommend you guys to watch Metal Lords. Just do not watch it in front of your kids. Or if you're a kid and you're reading and you're listening to this, please don't watch it. It's not for you unless you can get a censored copy of it. Although I highly doubt it because it's already R-rated. And I really like films that use the R rating subtly just to deliver the message and not overdo it, because it's not meant to be that sort of a film. Metal Lords is not meant to be a heavy R film. It just needed that R rating just to be true to itself, and I really like it. And I wish a lot more films get that R rating just to give you that realistic approach to a real life scenario. Unless of course it's a just a cartoon that's made for fun. That's completely understandable. But if it's a cartoon like Rick and Morty and you don't get the R, I mean, what's the point, right? So yeah, anyway, that's it for me for this one. I'll see you guys in the next. Take care.